So, today we are going to discuss about the story of a village called Palampur, which is in class 9's NCERT book of economics. Okay. So, before we talk about what actually is in this chapter, I would like to give you a brief summary of what we are going to talk about, what this chapter talks about. So, number one, remember that this story is an imaginary story. Okay, this story is an imaginary story which talks about different production activities in the village. So this village called Palampur, we will be talking about the production activities which it takes place in this village. So some facts are there in this village which we should keep in mind. Number one, in this village there is no expansion in land area. Okay, and many people, maximum people living in this village are into agricultural activities. What do they plant now? They plant rabi and kharif crops. So obviously, when we talk of rabi crops, we talk about wheat and rice and many other crops, of course. And kharif consists of bajra, jowar, and etc. Right? So these people, they also plant sugarcane. Okay, they plant rabi, they plant kharif crops, they plant sugarcane crops, and this chapter talks about how these people they grow many different kinds of crops. Now the question is, how are these people able to plant so many kinds of crops, right? So this is because the irrigation facilities in this village is excellent. It is the best. The story says that. I am not saying that. Okay, so now we while coming to the end of the briefing of this chapter, we talk about, as I said, that this story is an imaginary story, which, of course, if it is an imaginary story, it talks about or it relates to something, right? So here it depicts the life in our Indian villages. So we can relate. Any of you, if you have been or visited a village in India, you will see that most of the people in rural areas in our country, they are into agricultural activities. Okay, but being in agricultural activity, or if maximum people are in agricultural activity in any village, that does not mean that everybody are busy with their agricultural activities only. There are, of course, two kind of activities which every village in India does. They are, number one, the farming activities. Now, what will these farming activities include? These farming activities is nothing but sowing, plowing, etc. All the activities which needs to be done under farming, for farming. Okay. So secondly, we have the non-farming activities. So this is important, and this is what this chapter basically talks about mostly. So when we talk about the non-farming activities, I would like to give an example here. For example, I am a farmer and I produce mustard. So if I produce mustard, I will not like to eat mustard just like that, right? So I would like to make oil out of it and then use it in my curries or in my everyday lives or any kind of use I do, right? So because I produce mustard, for me to transform or convert the mustard into oil, what do I need to do? I need somebody who is going to help me to convert that mustard into oil. So that's why I go to a factory. Okay, I go to a factory. And in a factory, they manufacture or they convert my mustard into oil, which can be edible oil or any kind of oil, okay, which we use. So that happens step one. So that is called the manufacturer. So in a village, there obviously won't be all the people who will be engrossed or engaged in agricultural activities. There will be manufacturers, there will be people who will convert. Example, there were cottons, right? Many farmers, they grow cottons. So we will not like to wear cotton just like that. How are we going to wear? We are not going to paste it, right? We are going to convert cotton into cloth, right? We are going to convert it into cloth. Can we make it in by ourselves, right? Now what do we need to do? We go to the factory, we sell the cotton, they convert or manufacture clothes out of this cotton. So what happens? So as a result, we get cloth, or we get a manufactured finished product, number one. So in a village, there will be a manufacturer. Now after this cloth is made, okay, example, this is a cloth or something kind of a shirt kind of I'm making. So example, the manufacturer has converted cotton into cloth. So this cloth needs to be transported, yes or no? If a manufacturer in a factory makes a cloth, it is not going to be sold by itself, or people are not going to know that, okay, this color, this kind, this type of cloth is being made there. So there needs to be a transportation facility in a village. So it is not only about a village, it is about the overall thing. So here I am giving importance to a village because basically this chapter actually talks about the village, but the activity which is being carrying on here takes place in cities also. But of course the agricultural activities, it takes place in India, mostly in the rural areas. So we come to this point. So first activity will be our manufacturing. There will be a manufacturer, except the farming activities. We are talking about non-farming activities. Number one activity will be manufacturing. Then there will be transportation. So this transportation facility has to be there. Somebody should be there to keep transporting the goods from this place to that place. To a shopkeeper means from a buyer to seller, or to a hub, there needs to be a transportation facility, right? So there are people who are engaged in transportation facilities also. So this will come under the non-farming activity, not under the farming activity, okay? So after transporting, it is going to be taken by a shopkeeper to number 3 point, by a shopkeeping. So in a village, we will often see that there are not only cultivable lands, there are also shopkeepers. What do they sell? From where do they get? They get goods manufactured by the manufacturer, taken or transported by the transporter to the shopkeeper. So once it goes to the shopkeeper, what happens? We get to buy the goods, and the seller or the shopkeeper sells the goods. So we can say that these three are the elements of the non-farming activities. So, as I said that I was giving a brief about what this chapter talks about. So, here we come to the main point. This chapter actually talks about production. So, production. So, we all know what production is. We all know what consumption is. Production simply means to produce. When we talk about consumption or to consume a particular thing. Example, I want to consume rice today. To consume rice, somebody has to produce it, right? So here we are talking about the first step, that is of production. So when we talk of production, we have to come across the 4 factors of production, which is very, very important, not only for class 9, but all the phases, all your lifetime, you will be coming across these 4 phases of production. So number 1, when we talk about the 4 factors of production, is the land. Number 2, labor, capital, and human capital or entrepreneurship. So I'll go into further details while talking about the 4 factors of production, which is very, very important. So when I talk about, I would like to again repeat it, which is land, labor, capital, human capital, or entrepreneurship. Now, when I talk of land, why do we need land for production, or how land comes? What is the role of land when we talk of production? So, I will tell you this. So, for example, I'll give you an example. For example, I want to produce this particular piece of paper where I am writing in, or I want to produce papers. To produce or to start a work, will I be able to do it in air? Will I be floating and be able to convert if I want to make this paper bamboo into paper, would I not need a piece of land or a place to work? A small room, it could be a small room, a big room, a great huge plot, anything, be it any amount of land, but we will need a place of land to start our production. So land here therefore comes first, which says that where will you work? If I want to produce this sketch pen, or if I want to produce this particular paper, I need a place to work. Where will I work? That's why I will need, number 1, to produce land. Number 2, I will need labor. Who will work? If I buy a land and just keep it like that, will I get the sketch pen by itself? Somebody has to work or no? Be it machine, be it a human, somebody has to work. So number 2, second factor of production is labor. So when I talk of labor, I would like to signify or bring to light this, that when we talk of labor, we have 2 kinds of labor. What are the 2 kinds of labor now? Yes, both are humankind, okay? So, but the thing is, there is number 1 called the high skill labor and the low skill labor. Now, I'll tell you, of course, that why do we need the high skilled and the low skill labor? We need the high skill labor because in a factory, okay, in a factory to manufacture any kind of goods, we will have machinery, high-tech machinery. So that kind of machinery cannot be handled by a person who is not educated enough. Cannot be handled by any layman. One needs to be highly skilled for those kind of work, to operate such kind of machines for our output. So we need high skill labor. But even if we need high skill labor for those machines, all the work cannot be done only by machines and high skill workers. We need people for manual work also. So for people of manual work, we need low skill labor. Means it would be fine even if they are not educated, uneducated, or little less educated. No problem. Then we have the third factor of production, which is called the capital. This can also be called the physical capital. So do not be confused. When I say physical capital, or you will see in books physical capital or just capital, it is the same. You can use it interchangeably. Okay, so when I talk of capital, remember this point, okay? It will not be there in the books. Remember this point, that capital is not equal to money. Capital is not equal to money. Okay? I will tell you and you will understand how and why. So, when I talk of capital, we have 2 kinds of capital discussed in the book. That is the fixed capital and the working capital. Okay, now getting into details. What is fixed capital? Fixed capital are those goods or those things which can be used for a long period of time, which can be used again and again. Example, buildings, machinery, computers, tools. Here, I will even give a simpler example here, okay? I'll just not end it by one word. When I talk of buildings and machinery in fixed capital, it means that, example, you all are studying in a school. So tell me, if you are in class 9 this year, next year, when you pass class 9 and you reach class 10, this classroom you are studying in right now, will it be, destroyed? Will it be, destroyed for your next batch? Tell me, will just because you are reaching class 10 next year, so is it possible that every time you change a class, the committee or the management breaks the entire building and makes a new building every year? Is it possible? Then there is machinery. For example, for some works, some of the production activity, we need very expensive machines. Is it possible that after every batch of production, we keep on changing the machines? It is not possible, right? It means that fixed capital is that one-time investment. Yes, money is being spent, but once. But I will not say permanent. The permanent term would be wrong. When I talk of fixed capital, the permanent thing will be wrong, because machine can get spoiled, buildings can collapse, anything might happen. But yes, this is also true that this machine will last long. Buildings can also last long and can be used again and again, long period of time. It can be used to keep on producing goods, to keep on for our factors of production. The machine will be enough, for 10, 20, 30 years, the machine can be used, the building can be used, for example, to produce again and again the goods. So here, even if we are spending money to buy a machine or build a building, we are making a one-time investment which goes on for a longer period of time. Okay, remember this, longer period of time, and fixed capital can be used again and again, again and again, again and again. But mark my words, not permanent. Okay, then we have the second kind where it is called the working capital. Now what is working capital? Working capital includes raw material and money in hand. When we talk of raw material and money in hand, it means that all these things will be used up for one-time production. For example, here I have given an example of pottery. For example, clay is capital for pottery here. Okay, out of clay we'll make a pot. When we make a pot out of clay, this clay, by the time as long as we do not make a pot out of it, is a capital, right? So once we finish making a pot out of this clay is finished, right? When this clay is finished, it means this, that for the second pot I want to make, I need to get new clay. I cannot use the same clay because that same clay is used for my first pot. Okay, then the money in hand is also something which gets on getting spent while we do our factors of production, or in the process of production, this money in hand also starts getting finished. Okay, so remember here this, that in working capital, these things, the capital used in working capital is for one time production, is not for again and again. Okay, here I have written it again, that unlike fixed capital, working capital is one time use, one time production. Working capital can be used, for example, this clay for one pot can be used just once. It cannot be used again and again, right? But a building or a machine can be used again and again for our further production processes for a very long period of time. Okay, so then we have the fourth factor of production, which is called human capital or entrepreneurship. In your book it is given as human capital, but it can also be called as entrepreneurship, which is the fourth factor of production. Now what is human capital or the entrepreneurship? So when we talk of human capital, it simply means this, you understand this. Okay, we need knowledge and enterprise to bring everything together. Now, for example, we have four factors of production, right? We have four factors of production, which is called the land, labor, capital, and human capital, right? So, but tell me one thing. Example, I buy a plot of land. I hire 10 laborers. I invest money there. Okay, I have capital to produce a good. But tell me one thing, without knowledge, without leadership, how will, example, I want to produce this sketch pen. How or who is going to, without order, without knowledge, without common, without, management, how is this land, labor, or capital, these three elements going to operate for our final good? So that's why this human capital or entrepreneurship is very important, or which is also the fourth factor of production. Okay, which is the fourth factor of production. So that's why it has been said that we need knowledge and enterprise to bring everything. When I talk of everything, it means the three factors of production. Okay, land, labor, and capital. We need the three factors of production to together finally be able to produce a good. Okay, so this is called human capital. So human capital is nothing but a binding agent. Human capital is a binding agent of land plus labor plus capital. Then we will have a final produced good to be which will be usable or which can be used. Without human capital, all these things are a lie. Okay, so finally this is called human capital. There are other concepts in the chapter like green revolution, small concepts, green revolution, HIV, seeds, surplus farm products, etc., which I could not put together in the chapter. In case you want to know in details about this, you just comment below and I will make sure I make a video on it.